This episode of Going Forward is brought to you by Optimizer, an award-winning PPC management tool used by advertisers worldwide. Save time and boost the performance of your PPC campaigns on Facebook, Amazon, and Google or Microsoft. Get a 14-day free trial at optimizer.com/go/VIP.
If you're not telling anybody about yourself, nobody knows who you are. People don't owe you anything, even if they're part owner in your business. It's hard to build back with the knowledge that that person had. It'll take years for that knowledge to build back up. Companies get halted because they don't have a process in place. There is always somebody that has expertise in what you're doing. Start trying something different with AI. Trying a new tool, because if you're only using chat, you are stifled and siloed and you're behind. I'm telling you, you're behind.
Welcome to Going Forward, where inspiring conversations with leaders and entrepreneurs shape tomorrow. Dive into the depths of their journeys, the hurdles they've overcome, and the insights they bring to the future. Let's get moving right here, right now on Going Forward.
What's going on, Going Forward Nation? This is Eric Elliott. I am your host of the Going Forward podcast, where we speak to leaders and entrepreneurs and we have meaningful conversations. Today, I got someone on the line today. Boy, we're going to dig into it today. Miss Alane, we're going to dig into it. Alane, for those folks who don't know, she is the CEO of The Biggest Goal and co-host of the Automate Your Agency podcast. She's a serial entrepreneur. I mean, serial, 3-time published author, workflow automation expert. We're going to talk about all this today, and also how she's built successful companies and exited these companies as well. I'm telling you, she's a mover and shaker today, and I'm just glad I got her to keep still for me today on this podcast. Alane, welcome to Going Forward.
Man, I love that intro, Eric. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm telling you, when we prepped for, being able to speak with you today, I'm like this resume kept, going. I'm thumbing pages and thumbing pages. And I mean, I'm excited to talk to you today and really dive into this conversation. I think it's going to be really relevant for where we are now. But before I dive into that, and I know there's probably some things I glossed over in your bio, and for those folks who've never heard of you, Alane, please tell me exactly who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Biggest Goal is my company, and we come in and help companies automate their operations, and with a main focus of AI agents. And I hope we dive into what AI agents are, because it's very different than using chat and, really making scalable impact at companies.
Yeah, we definitely will. And that's one of the things we talked about in the beginning. And I almost want to kind of dive in, but there's going to be people, and even me included, I see these impressive things you've done, these companies you started. Like, what got you into it? I mean, what got you into this, just to say, like, I want to just start working in business. I want to be an entrepreneur. What got you into that?
Oh gosh. I mean, what made me want to be an entrepreneur was probably around 8 years old when people asked me what I wanted to be. And originally I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I was like, but I prefer telling people what to do. And I want to wear really cute outfits. That was my goal in life, was to be the boss and wear cute outfits. And so it had to be a CEO. And that really just kind of translated through my going to college. I did business and entrepreneurship. I started my first company when I was 24, 25, and just carried through. I just was a really bad employee.
Oh, don't say that. Why do you say that?
Well, I always wanted to solve problems that they didn't want me to solve. And so I quickly became unmotivated when I didn't get to navigate the role the way I wanted to.
Now, this is an incredible journey now. So you wanted to do more, but they wanted you to do less.
Yes. And let me also say, my stint in working for people was such a short amount of time. I think it was less than 2 years before I started my own company. So, not a ton of experience there. Yeah. But I think I failed a lot. And I think that really helps. I say the word failure, but I don't think of it as a failure, because you learn so much. Yes, exactly. And so my first business was super small. I was an engineer, so I did a dual bachelor's degree. So I got a degree in engineering, a degree in business management. And I didn't like what I was doing. So I started my first company. I contacted some companies in the industry with products that I liked. And I said, hey, could I rep your product and we'll do a 30/70 split and I'll just hand orders to you. And it was I had like five to 10 products that I repped at one time and would go into the city and try to get those products sold. And that was my first business.
Now you've had more than 600, I mean 600 companies you've worked with, and you being able to do it, you know, and being able to recognize the things that you saw in yourself, Alane. How does that help you when you hire people? You know, are you able to see things in them that you once saw in yourself, and how do you deal with that?
Oh gosh, that is one of my business partner always does the Elaine test, he says,
Oh,
because I really am good at seeing the truth in people and not
mhm,
truth like are they lying, but truth in like what is really their skill set
mhm,
and does that match with the role that we're hiring for? And so I really just think I'm a good listener,
mhm.
but I do think there's some things, especially I really gravitate to the sales and marketing side of
Yeah.
the business, and that's what I love to be in. So yeah, I want to find a personality similar to mine that is comfortable in that role and also likes to travel. If you are a homebody and in sales, that may not align with the role. So really kind of listening for those key things that maybe they're not saying directly, but that you pick up on in the conversation. That's what I'm always trying to do.
Got it. Is it fair when you're interviewing people to kind of look for a little bit of yourself or look for a little bit of things that you weren't so good at?
So if I look at my team personality wise, for my direct team that supports me, not in a role that's different from me, I'm
Mhm.
looking for architects. So they have a
Mm,
personality that likes to build, and I am a persuader who likes to be up here in strategy and ideas.
yeah.
And on the 16 personality test, I'm an entrepreneur, which is
Oh,
funny that
I
that's a
love those tests.
personality
Yeah,
test.
I love those tests.
But an architect pairs really well with me because I get to sit where I like to be, and then my support team and I didn't even mean to do it. I learned by just hiring these people that when I did the personality test, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, 4 out of 5 of them are the architect personality."
Wow. So you know, you talked about being a builder. Now, in building a company, let's just say you built the company now. I mean, what's something that you know now about building your company that you really wish you knew back then?
Oh gosh. I mean, one thing is if you're not telling anybody about yourself, nobody knows who you are.
Wow.
And I mean, marketing, I would get so mad in my first not my first company, but in my social media company that I built up. And I would get mad when a competitor got featured in a magazine or, got some type of promotion because of something they did. I'm like, but we're better than that. But I wasn't putting the effort out there to get recognized. I just wanted the people to come find me. And that's not how it works. People don't come find you if there's nothing out there to find and
Yeah.
if you're not putting out the effort. And so that is a huge difference between how I run my company now to what I did with my social media agency that I still miraculously built up. But I
Yeah.
just keep thinking, man, if I'd put some effort into what I was doing and created case studies and reached out about what we were building for we were in car dealerships. That was our industry back then.
Mhm.
We could have gone so much further faster.
Damn. I'm going to tell you why that touches home. I'm going to tell you exactly why what you just said touches home for us, because we would see people just like that. We were like, oh my, our work just kills their work, right? And I'm making the assumption like they should know who we are. Our work is good. And that's just the truth. I agree with you 1,000%. And like what we did top of the year was we started taking our work. We are like, our work's so good. Let's put it up. And we put it up on the national stage and we won.
Oh my gosh,
We
congratulations.
won. Yeah, we won awards, and we started even putting our podcast out there. We are like, because it won like 2 years in a row. But I agree exactly what you're saying. Like, there's so many different founders out there that are just like that. But let me ask you now, why don't people, like, we always have this assumption they should come to us, we're good. But in your case, why didn't you put yourself out there more? Or is it something you just didn't understand?
I didn't understand it, and some of it was naivety. Some of it was what I call for myself victim mentality. I
Hmm.
was when I did that, I was actually a victim. I'm the one going, oh, nobody's finding me and sulking in it. But really, it takes the motivation and the time to carve out. Because
Damn.
I can come up with every excuse in the book not to have time to do these things.
Yeah.
It could be, I don't have somebody on my team. I don't have the resources. I don't know who to contact. I don't know the story to tell. There is always somebody that has expertise in what you're doing. And maybe it's somebody really cheap and inexpensive at first, but I think that's actually sometimes the best way to start learning what works and what doesn't before you take a bigger step to a bigger team or an agency that can take it. Like, learn a few things on your own, because some of the
Yeah.
mistakes I'd make is, I'm going to hire this company, they're going to solve all my problems. But I didn't have enough education on what I wanted to talk about for them to help me get better.
W- A lot of people, they tend not, everyone likes to say, oh, I scaled a company or I grew a company, right? In your case, you've grown multiple companies, but what's some of the weight that people don't know about that comes along with scaling a company?
Oh my God, Eric, the
Bring
weight.
it.
It made me sick, like physically sick, from the stress of running that company and the burnout and what I call hero syndrome, where I needed to be the hero for my team and my clients. Like, there was no differentiating factor between what I needed to do to help my team or
Mhm.
help my clients. And I burned myself out once I sold my company. And at the end of the time that I had to stay on, I had an autoimmune disease that flared up on a weekly basis where my face would swell up. I was supposed to go to Florida and meet with Portia, this huge exec meeting. And that morning, I couldn't open my eyelids. Like, I couldn't even get myself to the airport because my
Oh
face was
man.
so swollen. It was such a painful experience. But that is how detrimental chronic stress was showing it inside me. Was, hey, Alane, if you don't want to listen, I'm going to make you listen. You need to
Oh,
rest. You need to pull yourself out. And running this company now, I am extremely protective of myself, my level of burnout, not letting myself burn out to the extent where, I'm carrying this autoimmune disease. It's been 4 years since I've had a flare up. So that's been a huge success for me,
it's
but
good.
it is hard. And putting that time into building your company, it really is a balance, and learning what puts you over the edge and what keeps you excited and motivated.
So now, is it hard to stay motivated when you're leading a company? Because, and I asked that, and that's a selfish question too, because there's so many people that are filled from your cup,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So do you find it sometimes where it's hard for you to be motivated as a leader? I hope you don't mind me asking that question.
No, yeah, please
Yeah.
ask me that. I'll tell you the times that I'm the least motivated is when I'm doing the work that I hate doing.
Mm,
When I'm motivated is when I get to do the things that I'm doing that I like to do, and some of it is testing things out. Like, I've got this idea right now that I wanna test things out, and so let me do a few of pieces of this, test out my idea, and then once I've said, "Hey, this is something we really should try," and then I have somebody to hand it off to get it over the rest of the way, to
yeah.
fine tune the details. Once I'm in the nitty-gritty of things, my motivation crashes, where I'm dragging to get things done, and that's even 7 years into this business. Like, I gotta really watch it, because my business is affected if I'm unmotivated.
Right.
If I start having negative energy towards what I'm doing, my team can pick up on that. They know when I'm in a bad mood or
Mhm.
when I'm not getting things done. I'm bottlenecking things.
Yeah, out of all the things, I mean, you solve a lot of issues. You talk about, like, SaaS, agency growth, automation, AI. Out of all those things, which are you more obsessed with? Like, what are you more obsessed with?
Oh gosh. I mean, I love a process, because
Whew, deep.
if you have a process, anybody can follow it.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm like, and that's where I learned not to have to be the hero. If I can develop the process and I can delegate, great. Even better if somebody can improve my process that I built
Mhm.
on.
We before the call, you and I, we talked about, like, law firms. I told you how we work with a lot of law firms, and I think and you bring up such a great point talking about, processes. And we made that a focus for our agency. But in the law firm world, a lot of folks kind of like to operate on the way they've always done it or the way they've been taught it. Or if you get a second, third, sometimes fourth generation lawyer, they don't want to hear about processes. Their process is what, their dad or their granddad told them. Let's talk about like the inefficiencies that you've seen in businesses. Let's use law firms, for example. Let's talk about some of the inefficiencies you've seen and how you can kind of solve that with AI and automation, if that's okay with you, Alane.
Yeah. And we work with a lot of law firms, and we worked with one, and it was great, fine. But then the law firms that are trying to keep up, not even necessarily with just AI, I'm not going to touch on AI in this for now, but the law firms that are tired of operating the old way because it isn't scalable. We worked with one. They must have loved us because they started referring us like crazy. There was some
Wow.
like mastermind community that they were a part of,
Mhm.
and that became a big niche of ours, was working with law firms.
Wow.
And everything from immigration to expertise in veteran affairs, like it's all kinds of law firms. But the core piece is, when you don't have a process, even if you have a team of lawyers, or they have a paralegal under them, there still is communication, and communication can fall.
Yeah.
And a client does not get what they need when they need it. And so we started seeing, when we're working with this, the problem is the same. They need to track where the client is at, especially if it's immigration law. They need to know where they are in the visa process.
Yeah.
And they need to make sure, hey, is this lawyer and this paralegal, are they communicating with the needs of this client? Where is that going? We don't want that stuff to get lost in email.
Yeah.
So they started developing actual processes for just their internal management. And then the ones that are really good started going, well, what about our sales process? How does that fit in? And so looking at the automation between, okay, let's get some stuff going in HubSpot or Pipedrive or whatever it is. And then how does that translate into our project management system once they become a client of ours? So
Yeah.
we're seeing some of these law firms emerging going, hey, we want to change. We want something more scalable. Our lawyers, if we can take any work off of them so they're not burning out and we're getting better quality of service to our clients,
Mhm.
that's the number one factor. Is at the end of the day, are you doing busy work that isn't valuable to the client, but it's burning you out? Or can we turn that into something that is more efficient, more automated, that the team can move things along, instead of, most of the time people are circling for data.
Yeah.
Where are we at on this? Let me go look in my email for this. Where's this at? Let me go find this document. A lot of that can get reduced by just having these systems in place.
We call it efficiency engineering, is what we call it in
Ooh,
law firms.
I like that.
Would you say that if a firm, let's just say a firm or a firm owner, doesn't have systems and processes, that owner will burn out?
It's hard not to make that assumption,
Hmm.
and I think at any point, somebody leading something is going to get burnout, and it really depends on the team that you have in place to support you. Can you go on this is a perfect test. Can you go on vacation? And just to start, can you go on vacation for 1 week and everything run without you?
Were you in my emails this week? I'm going to tell you, because I just told you, like, I came back from a vacation, and it's silly me, and I have to say it's silly me that I always kept this tight grip on no one can do it but me, and we have pages and pages of processes online, and I came back and I was like, everything was smooth, and I have some great leaders on our team. But it was the systems, and because I can admit, and I agree with you 1,000%, because like I always kept it so close to the vest, and
Mhm.
kids about to go in the pool. Let me make this phone call because it's a prospect that came through. Like,
Right, right.
why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? I agree with you so much in that part right there, and I believe a lot of law firms still that are operating in a draconian kind of way. Let's put it that way. They don't want to move and they don't want to do systems and processes because they think, automation, systems, processes, all those things, they think it's all software when sometimes it just can be leadership.
A lot of times it is because, thinking about that, Eric, a lot of times a client will want to switch to a different software
Yeah.
because the software is the problem. And
Right.
I'm always like, you can switch and that's fine. But the problem is not the software.
Yeah.
It's your utilization. It's your lack of culture around doing this. And
Yes.
you can switch, but you have to change your culture at the same time as the switch, or you're
Mhm.
going to be in the same problem and you just took on a whole bunch of work switching software.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard on your staff whenever they have to do it. And I've run across a law firm just like that too, Alane, where they had a certain CRM and they were like, "Oh, this thing is not working for us." It's like, well, it's kind of done it for a lot, like 2,000 other law firms. Well, what's so special about your firm that is not working? So
Yeah.
how do you know when leaders need to really take a look at that man or woman in the mirror?
Almost every time, but asking some questions. How does your team communicate? Is it through text? That's a common one.
Mhm.
Well, we communicate by texting or WhatsApping each other, and then through email. That's the telltale sign that there's a systems problem, that there's a
Mm.
lack of software utilization. And then does the team, like I see Trainual on here,
Yep.
just like you mentioned, you have an SOP.
Yep.
Well, what's your SOPs? Are they updated? If I have a question, are you my knowledge base, Eric, or is Trainual the knowledge base?
Mhm,
So a
mhm.
lot of times we as humans are the knowledge base. They have to come to us because there is no other place for it. And then the other part is breaking that habit of going to people. And instead the culture changes. You
Wow.
know what? Go check Trainual first or whatever your SOP software is. Did you check that? Even if you know it's not there, did you check that?
Yeah.
Because you want the habit to be checking there first.
Yes.
And so this is some of the stuff that I uncover on the initial calls. Is like, okay, tell me about your tech stack. Okay,
Mhm.
tell me how your communication happens, because there's two problems that I see. One, that there's not enough software in place. And so people become your process, and that
Yeah.
is detrimental. And then the second is you have software, but you're not using it. And instead, you're just texting or slacking each other all
Uh, oh my gosh. I think you're in my meetings. You're in my meetings and you're in my email. You better get out. And you're right. And I always say to people, I was like, we need to create a system and create a process for that, because if you are one day ran over by a donut truck, I don't
day.
want all the secrets to our company to be with you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Does that make sense?
People leave, whether it's a donut truck or another opportunity, and they
Yeah.
can walk out with your knowledge, and then you've got to recreate that information all over again.
We're going to take a break. I want to come back and talk about building and exiting companies, but I also want to get into some AI stuff, because everyone's thinking when they hear AI, the first thing they think is what?
ChatGPT.
There you go. We're going to talk about that. So we're going to take a break, pay some bills, come back, and we're going to dive into building and exiting. Cool?
Hold tight, listeners. We're taking a brief pause. Going forward, we'll be back shortly with more insightful conversations.
If your company feels like chaos and finding anything is like solving a mystery, get Trainual, the app that turns all your scattered company knowledge into an organized playbook, where every employee question has an answer, just a simple search away. Where all of your processes and policies are documented, roles and responsibilities are defined, and delegating anything is as easy as drag and drop. Trainual, it's how you get your operations under control and how you deliver the ultimate onboarding and training experience.
Welcome back to Going Forward. We hope you're recharged, because we've got an exciting second half waiting for you. Get ready to dive deeper and be inspired. Let's keep the momentum going.
Welcome back, Going Forward Nation. I have Miss Alane Boyd on the podcast with me. If you missed the first few minutes, you better go back. You better rewind back. And you better go listen to some of the things that she was saying, especially some of you people who have some burnout there. We're talking about some systems, processes, and workflows. We're going to dive a little deeper. And I got a feeling that people are salivating, want to know, like, how did you build all these companies? How did you exit all these companies? Because we're in that day and age now where you got a lot of law firm owners selling and some buying firms. So a question I had for you is, hopefully this one kind of can make you dig deep in your memory bank and find something. What is one painful lesson that you learn while scaling your companies?
No one owes you their loyalty to stay.
Yeah.
And I can remember my heart just being so broken with a couple of employees that put in their notice. And I was just like, how are we going to do this without this person? And
You're my sister from another mister. Please keep.
but it's so hard because you build these relationships with your team members, and especially the ones that are such great leaders in the org. And man, when they left, there was a hole that I just couldn't see at the time of how am I going to replace this person?
Wow.
And I had to learn, after you go through that pain enough times, you just learn, you get thicker skin, like, okay, I need to have some safeguards in place because people don't owe you anything. Even if they're part owner in your business and they've got shares or a membership interest in your LLC, that doesn't mean they owe you their loyalty. And people will leave and you need to move on. And that was the hardest thing for me to go through in learning lessons.
What are some of the mistakes that you've seen founders make? Because not only in your own companies, but you've worked with other companies as well. What are some of the mistakes that you see these founders make every day?
I mean, kind of what we were just talking about too is making people their knowledge bases, because you can't scale that. And when they do leave, because they will get burnt out, and people don't stay at businesses long term. It's hard to build back with the knowledge that person had. It'll take years for that knowledge to build back up. So, what I see is companies get halted because they don't have a process in place. And the process, when that person leaves, they just left with the process and trying to catch up. And a lot of that falls on the owner, because the owner at least knows something about that process if you're a smaller company. And so you see the owner have to dive back in, which stalls growth. And really changing the culture to be welcoming to systems. Because what's scary for people when you put in systems, people start to think, oh, they're going to replace me. They want the knowledge because they want to replace me. And that's not the case. It might even be they want to promote you, that they want you to get rid of some of the day-to-day tasks so that they can move you to a different position, a better position. But if you're always the one holding on, then you can never move out of that role. You are stuck there no matter what. So, I see that in companies. I saw that in myself for a long time, that I was scared to make change when change was needed.
That's honest. And, there are some companies that might feel like, well, I'm too small to have processes. I think that's when you need them the most, to be honest with you.
Oh gosh, Eric, you nailed it. I forget about that one. But some companies, they do say that. Even if it's a 10-person team, they'll say that. I'm going, when you're one person, you have a process. And you're depending on you to remember it all and be consistent. Even if you are a party of one, you have a process if you are running any kind of company. So documenting your process, and it can be really easy. It could be in a Google Doc checklist. You don't have to overthink it in the beginning. As you grow, you can improve it, but every company has a process for something. And if you haven't started, start it today.
To me, it's like a recipe, you always want to have, your SOPs are like your cookbook, and everything you do is like your recipe there, and I heard this guy, Ryan Dice said a long time ago, he said, the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. And that's the truth, because you have, like, whenever someone's coming to, and you've bought and sold companies before, when they come in, if it is totally circulating around the owner, then you don't have a business.
You don't. And if you sell, you just gave yourself a job, because if you are the most valuable part of your business, they're not getting rid of you. They
Right.
need you to keep
Yeah.
the business running that they just bought.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I am so glad that like we're talking about this, because I think there's a lot of business owners right now who need to hear this. There are a lot. I've seen law firms, no kidding, Elaine, where they go to a couple conferences or attend a couple masterminds. They hear other law firm owners talk about, yeah, I'm working 3 days a week now, and then they try that same thing when their systems and processes are not ready for it. And then their law firm crumbles.
Yeah.
And they hire a marketing agency and then put the pressure on the marketing agency and say, I need more calls, I need more leads. And all along, the system on the inside of that law firm was broken.
Yes.
Oh, man. So, what are some of the things that you would advise founders to do to kind of audit themselves to see if, they are ready for systems, or, um, if they shouldn't be too dependent on one person? What are some of the things that you would say to them when you first walk in?
I was thinking about your baking analogy. And have you ever watched Nailed It before?
Yes.
That was what was coming to mind,
Yeah.
because they have the instructions, but the execution is not there.
Wow.
And that's what I think is I loved that analogy, because that's exactly where my brain went.
Mhm.
And people need to understand what is in your mind enough to execute. They need those details.
Oh, man.
And the first thing that I always say is, look at your day.
Mhm.
How much is answering your team's question? And just make a tally. Even if you have Post-its on your desk, make a tally mark every time somebody has to come to you for an answer.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And then
I
look at how many times a day that's happening, because we don't even realize it. In
I
the
feel
beginning, we are the machine, right? We start
Yes.
as a party of one.
Yes.
And then, so we're answering questions all day. Then we think, oh man, when I just get this hire and it's going to solve all my problems. Well, it solves some. People do solve some problems.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, the bigger your team gets, the less valuable work you can do as the owner, because all your day is answering team questions,
True.
keeping work moving forward. So look at your day. Is that what your day looks like? Every question you answer, add 20 minutes to the time that it took you to answer that. So
Totally.
at a minimum, it's 20 minutes of your time, because that's how long it takes you to get back into the flow of what you were doing before.
I think it depends on people. For me, it always feels like I wonder like where people are when they start their business, or they're younger, they're older. When you're younger, I'm not going to tell my age, but when you're younger, you always want to feel like you want to take over the world and you want to conquer everything. And then when you get a little older, it's like, you know what? I want this thing to run a little smoother. I need some peace, you know?
Yeah.
And so, for those entrepreneurs or founders, they start getting in a few big accounts or big clients or whatever, and they feel like, you know, they're in growth mode. How do they know if they're building an enterprise or they're just building a mess with more revenue attached to it?
Oh gosh, when I first did a merger and the company was larger than us, and it was two corporations that came together and formed a new LLC. So we were literally a merger. And
Okay.
we thought, oh man, this company is bigger than us, higher revenue than us, more people. And what the end result was is we were extremely more profitable than they were as a larger company,
Wow.
because of just what you exactly said. Like, they threw money and people at solving growth problems. And at the end of the day, they were inflated by about 20% in salaries.
Wow.
That's your biggest cost as a company, is paying
Yeah,
them.
yeah, absolutely.
So out of 100 people at your company and you're inflated by 20%, that is a lot of money on your bottom line. And that's going to be your end result. You solve problems with people instead of systems, and it costs you your profit in your company. And I don't know about any owner, but profit is the most important thing for me to want to take home.
Yeah.
And that gives you the leverage for making decisions on how you're going to get paid at the end of the day. If you get bought out and you have less revenue and your EBITDA is low,
Yeah.
your buyout is going to be a whole lot smaller than a smaller
Right.
company with higher profit.
That's
So,
right.
these are the things that like I'm always thinking about. Do I want to keep growing? But can I scale? Is this actually a scalable service or product that I'm offering to keep my EBITDA high? Or is this going to be just sometimes it's temporary. Sometimes we just have to throw people at stuff. We don't have all the problems figured out. But at some point, you got to catch up with yourself. So looking at other companies, they are so far in debt. They've taken out loans, taken investment, that their percentage as an owner is smaller.
Yeah.
Whereas for my company, my percentage is higher. I've taken less risk, but at the end of the day, I make more money when I sell my company because of that. So I'm always looking at that. I don't want to always solve with throwing people at it, but I do need to do that sometimes, but you got to catch up.
What did going through an exit teach you about the difference between building a company that's making money and building a company that's actually sellable? I mean, what have you learned from going from company to company and being able to build something that's sellable, Alane?
I think the most valuable thing that I underestimated in my own company was the value of that I had a documented process for everything. We used Asana.com back then. It was a project management system. Every single thing our company did had a template, a process, something. With law firms, Monday.com is extremely common in law firms. So, looking at something like that. And then we had a knowledge base. We had a ticketing system for our clients to email in, and that I wasn't tied to the business.
Wow.
Now, I didn't value any of that going in. I just thought, honestly, Eric, every business did that. I thought what we figured out was so common. And going through the sales process and PE firm and strategic partners, every single one of them was like, we never see this. We never see a well-oiled machine. And it was very apparent after we went through the sales process that we were a unicorn. And that's what the start of this business was with Biggest Goal. I said, if this is so uncommon with companies that are growing and scaling, that they kept mentioning this, I said, then this is a service that I can provide. I can go in and help build out systems, help build out automation. I wrote our first automation in 2016, Eric. This wasn't like...
This is before all the chat GPT came.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'd go, when AI first came out and everybody was talking about chat GPT, everybody's like, oh my God, I just want to automate my business with AI. And I'm going, you're 100 steps away from even being able to do that. And you don't even need AI right now. You just need some simple automation.
Wow.
So like those kind of things is what started Biggest Goal. And as AI came out, I've incorporated that, and we can talk about agents here in a little bit too, but where does really scaling your company without people now is possibility? I have 41 agents that work for me, and those are not people. Those are AI robots.
Were those, was there ever a time, let's just say, post success, like you said, those folks, they came in there like, oh, you're a unicorn, you got your stuff together. But was there ever a time you ever had this moment like after success where you had to kind of redefine who you are without constantly being attached to the grind of everything you were doing?
Oh, Eric, are you like reading my dark journals from the past?
You see, you're in my email and I'm in yours right now.
Oh God, it was such an interesting time of my life. I was at the most successful I've ever been when I sold my company, and the most depressed and lost I've ever felt.
How?
Because the day you're done, I had all my money in my bank account, and my last day had passed. The next morning, I had no one to talk to. No one was emailing me. No one was messaging me. I had nothing, and my identity was lost at that point. Who am I without running my company and talking to these executives at all of these places. I left that industry because I was tired of that industry. And I always want to say make this a point too, Eric. If you are not done with what you're doing, don't sell your business, because at the end of the day, you're going to sell and then you're going to start another business doing the same thing. Make sure you're done.
Oh,
Now that's the hard part.
Get out of my email. Get out. This interview is over. I'm done with you, Alane. I'm done with you. I'm so done with you.
But if you're done, it's so hard because that's everything you've been working towards. All of your contacts, all of your team members, they're going on with their day.
Yeah.
I was 34 years old with a 3-year-old baby, and my entire identity was tied to that company, and I had nothing left. And there's only so many 34-year-olds that aren't working, and honestly, there's not that many.
You're alone, and
I was so alone. It was so hard.
I wrote an article about how lonely being an entrepreneur can be. There's a lot of people that just don't understand that,
Yeah.
And I totally get what you're saying. And, and I don't mind even saying it here on this podcast. I had, there's some private equity going around buying up shops, and we had them reach out. They reached out to me multiple times. And my response was, I'm having too much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's true. It's like, I'm not even thinking about that. And if anything, I just said, I'm having too much fun right now, because I know that I love what I do too much, and that I wouldn't sit down, like you say. No, I wouldn't sit down.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you say that, and said 34 years old with a 3-year-old, and it's not money you're craving. It's just, that purpose that you had when you were doing what you were doing.
Yeah. And then refining your purpose. Oh God, it was just, I had to start this company, honestly, because I had to have something to do. I had to be motivated, have fulfillment again. And it took a long time to heal. That process of selling was more difficult than I think I ever anticipated. And, I needed time to heal. I was so sick physically, like I mentioned, with my autoimmune disease. Like I had to really work through those things. And then starting this business. And Eric, when you mentioned how lonely it is, even being an entrepreneur, not even talking about post-sale, like when you're in it, how lonely you are. One thing I did different this time is I joined some other communities for entrepreneurs and it has helped me significantly, because I'm not alone anymore. Goldman Sachs has one called 10,000 Small Businesses for Entrepreneurs. So I joined that. And then found out about EO. And so I joined EO Nashville. And that has been the most rewarding experience, just for me, having somebody else going through the same old shit.
Yeah.
It's so hard some days. And it's not even, I'm not even messaging them like, hey guys, I'm having a really rough day. I need a pep talk or anything. But it's more like when we're meeting and we're doing our experience shares, that's like, oh man, somebody else is going through a really hard time in their business, and being able to connect with people, like send out a message, like I'm having this situation with this employee. Does anybody else have experience with this? And I'm not paying them. They don't owe me their side of the story. I think that's what's hard when I was selling the company too, is the only people I was surrounded by were the people I were paid, and their best interest is to get paid. So now I've got these support systems in place that I'm not paying them. And I have a list of people I can go to with any situation and be like, hey, have you had this experience? And it's been so much easier this time around. And I don't have that same loneliness factor.
Wow. You've seen a lot of entrepreneurs up close. I mean, in your view, I want you to give me the real, don't give me some political answer, some straight up nice answer. I want the real one. Why do they fail?
They can't get out of their own way. I can think of a lawyer who owns a successful law firm, small, and I've been having the same conversation with him for 4 years. And I'm just looking at people and I'm going, get out of your own way, dude.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think they have some kind of special secret sauce. I'm sure there is absolutely something special about your company, but not enough that you are that special.
Yeah.
the owner, it's always this like, well, we're just different and we really focus on the human side of things. I'm going, what business doesn't? Unless you're a SaaS company, but still customer support is such a big piece of a successful SaaS. Do you listen to your customers? Do you make improvements to the product that you have? It's the same stuff every
Mhm.
company is trying to achieve. How you do it might be slightly different, which makes your company special, but
Mhm.
not enough to where you can't make progress on getting yourself out of the day to day, finding a team member that can do what you do. And I'll say, Eric, I'll tell one of my stories. My business partner in my company, that my social media agency that I built up, when I was suffering from hero syndrome, where I had to solve everybody's problem, be
Mhm.
there for everybody, the maddest he's ever been at me. And we had such a great working relationship,
Damn.
but I couldn't let go. And it was starting to stifle the company. At some point when you're growing, you are the go-to person, but then you get big enough where you got to start letting go. You have the right people in place.
Yeah.
And he stormed into my office and screaming at me, "You are not the greatest gift to the universe. There is somebody that can do what you do. You are hurting this company. I don't care who you hire, but you're starting today to find a replacement for you and figure out what it is that you need to step away." And he slammed the door behind him. And at first I was like, "Oh God, I'm so mad at him." And then I was like, you know
He
what?
was giving you the truth.
He was, and it was such an honest
Yeah.
moment. And I will say was the differentiator in our business growing and getting bought. Because up until that point, I was doing everything and working insane amount of hours.
Yeah.
But we weren't growing because I wasn't up there as an owner with him. I'm in the weeds every day. We hired people to do the jobs. We had the right managers. Yes, I did need somebody to replace some of the work, but I had to figure out how to do that. And I'll share this because it is hard when you're in that. And if you're a founder that's going, but Alane, how do I get there? How do
Yeah.
I transfer what I'm doing? And what I did, and I'm not saying this is the only way, but I hired a skilled person that I knew could take the job. And I just made them sit with me on a Zoom. We were remote, so not in the same location.
Mhm.
And some days they watched me work. Some days they were on calls with me. Sometimes they checked my email and wrote the email for me so that they could start learning how to
Wow.
communicate with the clients. And it was grueling at first because I'm like, God, this just seems like such a waste of time. But when I was the owner of all those things, I couldn't just go and document what I knew. How do I know what I know? And so I needed an outside perspective to go, but Alane, how did you get from A to B? Let me see that process. Let me document it. And then I could just keep moving on with my day. And they were the ones responsible for building out my brain basically.
A lot of owners, they have that mentality. No one can do it like me. I have to do it. You know,
I was there. I know.
Cameron Harrell said, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
Yes.
You know?
That's a book, isn't it?
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but one of the people in my CEO group brought that up the other day, and I thought that was so good.
There's another great one is Meetings Suck. And it's meetings suck, and it goes right along, kind of like what we're talking about, and I think one of the biggest things that can happen, for an entrepreneur or any business owner or leader is when we stop becoming the bottleneck for our company. You know what I mean? We stop becoming the bottleneck. And when I went on vacation, and I remember telling our leaders, I was like, make a decision. If it's the wrong one, we'll learn from it.
Yeah.
But just make a decision.
Yeah.
Don't, because you can really hurt the clients if everything waits on, the leader to come back. But, just make the decision,
That's what I love on my team, the people that can make a decision.
Yeah. I think that's one of the uncomfortable truths for entrepreneurs, knowing like that person walked in and told you, get someone else, do what you do. I think, so did that hurt you when you heard that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was so furious. And at first, my self-esteem was hurt. Like, how dare you say somebody else could do what I do? Like, I am amazing.
Right.
And so I wanted to get defensive, and I honestly, I can't even remember if I responded to him when he came into my office. I remember vividly the words he said and
Yeah.
how he made me feel, but I can't remember anything that came out of my mouth.
Wow.
And it was such a hard truth, but I was lucky, Eric, because I had somebody with the balls to come in and say that to me.
Yes.
And a lot of founders don't. They don't have it either. They don't have maybe they're a solo founder and they have no one that feels like they can come up and say that to them.
Oh man.
And so I always think back and I'm like, that was a turning point for us. That's where we went from a small company to really growing. And within a year, we got an offer on our company. So it's like those moments that when we can let go and listen to outside feedback, that can be transformative for us.
Let's talk about the automation side of it. Because people who are leading, or hopefully they're listening to this podcast wherever they are. Me, I like to listen to podcasts when I'm doing dishes. And that's when I can really soak things in. Right? So I want to talk about like the automation side of it, because people hear us talking about automating the business, the processes, the workflows. Let's talk about the tools.
Okay.
Because it's bigger than the minute they hear AI, they automatically think Claude, Chat GPT. Let's talk about those systems. Let's talk about the tools. First, tools. What tools can they utilize to help start automating their businesses?
So
and they'll probably ask, what do you use, Alane?
Yeah, perfect. So at a core piece is having a project management system, because there's automation that can be built within that already. So new client onboarding. What do you need to do? Do you need to add them in QuickBooks? Do you need to send them a welcome email? Do you need what is your onboarding process, and have that in your project management system? I use ClickUp and love it. It's great. Monday.com, Asana are great. There's others out there. That's what I always say is the starting place for automation, because you can build automation in that, and then they communicate so well with your other platforms.
Okay.
So tools that I use so let's say Pipedrive CRM. When I mark a deal as one, that triggers it building the new client onboarding automation for me. And to build that automation, there's a few out there, so I'll just name the 3 most common. Zapier is by far the most common that I see, is Zapier.
Yeah.
The next, which I would say is the next evolution, would be make.com for building this out. And then if you're wanting to do agents, you can use N8N, and it's the letter N, the number 8, and the letter N. And that's where you can do everything you can do in Make and Zapier, but it was designed to build agents as well. And so that can be part of your automation. So those are the tools that I use. And oh my gosh, it's just what can be done. It blows my mind. And I live this life, but I'm still blown away by what I see my team do. So we build them for ourselves. We drink our Kool-Aid. And then we also build them for other companies, and we train companies on how to build them. So starting at the project management system and then going through something like N8N.
So let's say there's people who have been in a system for so long, because like you said earlier, when we talked about, lawyers using a system, and the problem is not the system, it's them. The system might already have these features and benefits that they just haven't unlocked yet, right? So is it where you go in and you first talk to them about what they're using and utilizing first, and then seeing what its capabilities are? Do you do that?
Yeah, we do. We'll do a process with them in the beginning where we go through their tech stack. The things that we're looking for in a tech stack is, does it have an API or webhooks available? Because that's how you can tie things together for an automation. So we're looking for that. Then we're looking at, okay, well, does this software, what are you wanting it to do? And then it might be, okay, if it just doesn't have that capability and you need to change. So we'll recommend other software, and we're always looking for what will do the job and what has API or webhooks, or more recently, you might be hearing about MCP servers. So MCP is the new API webhook way of connecting things with AI.
So I am all about automation, but you'll have some people thinking, and I know you have an answer for this. They'll think like, well, the more I automate, the less I have to hire people. You know what I mean? And there's some people they feel like, well, I don't want, well, Joan has been with me for 15 years. I don't want to get rid of Joan, doing this. So how do you have that balance where you say, look, you can really be more effective and it's not replacing you people, it actually
Mhm.
enhance things. So, I mean, how do you get to have that conversation often?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love talking about this because a lot of times what I found with companies is that they actually don't want to replace their team members for the
Yeah.
most part. They just want their employees to be happier, to do work consistently, because consistency is a big thing. Eric, the way you do things and the way Alane does things is two different ways,
Mhm.
but we want a VIP marketing way of doing something,
Right,
or a
right.
biggest goal way of doing something. So getting the consistency out. And a lot of stuff is data movement, moving information from call notes to what the client wants into a document for their will or something like that.
Yeah.
What is moving information from one place to another. And that is what we're looking to automate, that information movement piece, to make it easier so the team member can just do what they like to do. Most people do not like to do data entry, but that is what
Right.
they're doing. Most of their day, honestly, is
Wow.
data entry, but we don't think of it like that.
Wow. I never even thought of it like that way. You're trading the automation for the data entry, because there's some really cool systems. Like I remember I looked at Salesforce back in 2010 when it was really big and clunky. And it was like, man, this is too much work sitting in front of the system, putting
Mhm.
everything in it, versus nowadays, like, you have a phone call through your CRM, the notes are there, it tags everyone, and you don't have to deal with anything else, right?
Absolutely, and that is such a time saver. And really, I have one of my automations is Polly, and she does our proposal. So we name all of our AI agents, all of our automations. We name them because they're people on our team. They're just robot people.
Yeah.
And Polly takes the transcript, and when we move in our CRM and we move it to proposal stage, Polly takes a transcript, goes to PandaDoc, our contract software, finds the correct template to use based on our conversation, and fills out the proposal for us.
Damn.
At a minimum, that saves us 2 hours.
Oh
But
my
that is data movement. That is data from a call going to our CRM automatically. The only human piece is moving it to the proposal stage. We move that because we as the human know when it needs to move to the proposal stage.
Mhm.
And then Polly takes that and goes and creates the proposal. Even that at a company is a huge time saver. And it's
Wow.
using our templates that we've already created with our master services agreement already in there, pre-populates the person's name and company name. Now we don't have it send. We'll go and, edit the human piece, which is like, hey, let's just tweak things, be the human, be the strategist in this, the expert, and then we can send it on its way.
Do you see a lot more different AI and automations that are going to come to fruition?
There's Claude Cowork. So I think let's take a second, Eric, and kind of talk about the difference of what AI chat is and what I'm talking about with
Mhm.
agents. A lot of times when I talk about AI, people automatically think ChatGPT or chatting with Claude,
Mhm.
one of any of those chat AIs. That's what they're thinking of when we talk about AI. That is the basic level. Everybody's doing that. You're not anybody special at this point.
Right.
What is an actual, and that's not scalable. When you're chatting with AI, it's only as good, Eric, as you're using it. And it's not doing any work for you, right? Like
Yeah.
it's going to tell you what you should do. And then you have to go and do it basically.
Right, right.
So I see it as like a great, like one-off thing, but I hardly even use chat anymore, honestly. Claude has come out with a desktop app with Claude Cowork, and it can be integrated with the software that you use. So they have certain connectors. Not every software, but it has connectors built in. You can connect. So, for instance, I will say, let me think of an example. Okay, Claude Cowork. I'll go in, create a new task with it, and I'll say, "Hey, can you go through my recent emails and find any sales-related emails that I need to follow up on that I dropped the ball?" It is connected to my Google. it goes in and it'll list, hey, these are the 4 people that that you haven't followed up with. And then I'll say, great, can you make sure these notes are in Pipedrive for me? Because it's connected to my Pipedrive. And then I'll say, can you draft something for me? And I'll give it an idea like, hey, let's follow up with the recent podcast episode.
Yeah.
And so give us something to work with. It'll draft all the emails. And then so it's like, it becomes almost like my control panel for work.
Yeah.
Now that is still a one-on-one thing, but it's super cool because it's connected to my accounts. The next evolution would be those automated sequences with an AI agent. An AI agent is part of an automated workflow, like how I mentioned Polly. Polly's an AI agent. She is sitting in that automation, has instructions, so she knows what to do. So think of an agent as an intern in your company that knows how to do one thing and do one thing well.
Got it.
So Polly knows, she's got her instructions. She knows, oh, well, now that this just came through, I know what to do. And she's connected to PandaDoc, our proposal software, to go and then do it. So it's kind of that hybrid between a like Claude Cowork and ChatGPT, because it's got AI. That's where its brain comes from, but can go execute as part of a system every single time. That might cause more questions. I don't know if I did a great job of explaining
No,
that.
you did. I think while you were saying it, I was kind of watching the handoff from one thing to another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are some of because there's, the world of CRMs and automations, and now you see these big things happening every year. Like, HubSpot has their inbound conference and all. What are some of the, didn't have to be a rubber stamp, but some of the best CRMs with AI and automation built into it that you see out there that already comes ready to roll before you use Zapier and, Claude Teams and all this other stuff? What are some of the best that you've seen out there?
So, I'm always hesitant to say Salesforce only because it is such a behemoth and so overkill for most companies.
Yeah.
You really need to be an enterprise level, I think, to use Salesforce. But HubSpot, I think, is doing a really great job. Some of them, I will also say, they're a little slow on the AI piece, because if you think about where companies have been up until 4 years ago, they already have a lot of technical debt. I mean, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Salesforce, all of those companies have been around for a very long time as a CRM. Then you have AI coming out and they have to almost rebuild all of their stuff to adapt to having AI as a part of it.
Wow.
So where you're really looking are those MCPs. So HubSpot and Pipedrive have MCPs that make it so that it can connect on an AI level with other software. And it's just a little bit easier. With an API, you have to match exactly. And not that you don't have to do that with MCP, but that is, the next level of what companies are going to be doing is building out these MCPs, because they need to be able to communicate on an AI level between other software platforms.
Oh, now tell our audience what MCPs are so they can.
Oh gosh, let me get the actual word description for it.
And I say that because, I think everyone is so interested in it. They're so interested in it, and I think there are, let's just say, firms, founders, they want to dive into it. They just don't know where to start. My fear for a lot of companies is that when they wait too late to get involved in AI and automation, they're going to start like ground zero, because it's almost like a building block to me in my mind. It's like math. You can't just jump in without knowing adding and subtracting first and foremost, and multiplying and dividing before you start figuring out the other stuff.
Right. It's like such a good point, Eric, too, because a lot of companies are so far behind. So an MCP, the acronym is terrible, Model Context Protocol. It's basically, instead of having a complex integration point like an API would be, it simplifies it a little bit, and it's adapted for AI communication. So it's kind of complex. So even if people aren't worried about MCPs right now, just going back to, does it have an API? Does it have webhooks? Like, that's a good starting place. But what you're saying is a bigger problem, even if you don't know what an MCP is and you don't even need to be the person at your company building these, knowing what's going on in AI and not thinking ChatGPT or similar is like the all in be all. We started at Biggest Goal, we started an AI mastermind for founders and C-suites
Wow.
so we meet every other week with our mastermind members, and we're going over the newest ways to use AI because there's just so hard to keep up. Like I do see with companies, founders, where they're just like, I don't even know what to keep up with. There's so much information
Yeah.
out there. Well, we're living this world every day. So we're curating topics, we're testing things out, and then we're showing it to the members of the group so that they have a curated, vetted little ecosystem to be within. And
Mhm.
then also that, again, going back to when you're alone as a founder, you're only as good as your next idea. And you're surrounded by other founders trying to do the same thing, and the idea sharing in there. Oh my gosh, one of them shares his screen and shows what he's built. And it is fuel to the other members too, because it's like, that is possible. I just saw somebody else that's not Alane or Micah that's leading this mastermind. Another member did this. And it gives motivation to the other people because it's like, hey, we're all everyday people. There is,
Yeah.
I have learned I am not that special. And they can do it just like we can do it. And we're there to support them. So that's where we've just tried to make it digestible for people.
There's a founder, who's listening to this right now, Alane, and they want to act and they just don't know where to start. And they probably blend in the whole bunch of chaos, that's happening right now. What's their first move that they should make to start gaining control? Because, the one thing in business is it doesn't stop. There's going to be a new engine. There's going to be a new software. There's going to be a new this. And they might have the heart, like you said, to be able to do all this stuff. And like you talked about the AI mastermind, where do they start first? What should be the first thing they do? Call you? What should they do?
Sure. That's always a good step. We can help. I think at a minimum is start trying something different with AI, trying a new tool. Because if you're only using chat, you are stifled and siloed and you're behind. I'm telling you, you're behind right now. And there's going to be there's going to be companies that just can't keep up with margins. Like when's the last time you went to Blockbuster? When's the last time a phone operator connected your call for you?
Yeah.
Like these things go away because technology replaces them and none of us are immune. How we do things really matters now. And our expectations, especially in the United States, our expectations are so high with the level of service, which is why we don't even care if we go to the grocery store anymore. We're happy to take away the human experience and use an app on our phone to do that for us. A technology is replacing those things. So making sure that you're adapting. That's why grocery stores have people that will shop for you now, and you can do free pickup. Like they're adapting as fast as they can. So as companies, we need to as well. And your question about where to start, there's some free ways to do it. I don't necessarily want to just self-promote myself, but I know what I'm doing.
Look, you're doing a service to people who need help. So I need you to spill the beans.
All right, I'll spill the beans. So I have a podcast, Automate Your Agency, and we are talking about automation and AI every single week. That is a free tool resource for you to use. Also, we have a community, the Biggest Goal community, where my business partner every single day, even on Easter, puts together the latest AI news that you should know. And he digests it for us. So he's doing it so that we don't have to keep up with everything. And then start adapting and using other tools. People are so scared, Eric. This is so common. Well, I get in with one tool and now I'm so scared to go to the other. I'm like, get over it. Get over it. You know what? You're an adaptable human being. We can change.
Yeah.
And that's just part of it. This time last year, we were just getting started in N8N. So 2 years ago, we weren't even talking about AI agents. Well, guess what? Things changed. And I
That's
moved
right.
from make.com to N8N for building agents. Then 2 months ago, Cowork came out and we've been using the heck out of it. And it has been incredible. Well, that didn't stop me because I'd been using other AI platforms. I just adapted and I changed.
Right. Whenever I get people that actually, um, they come on our team, I always play this little clip from Star Wars, and I'm gonna probably send it to you on LinkedIn or email it to you at some point. And it's a clip when Yoda is talking to Luke Skywalker, and Luke was trying to raise the X-wing out of the little pond, and he said, "Well, Master Yoda," he said, "Okay, I'll try." And Yoda said, "Don't try, do or do not." And Yoda says to Luke, and this is one of the best business lessons you'll get in Star Wars, I'm telling you. He says, "You must unlearn what you have learned."
Ooh.
Are there times when you've seen a founder, business owner, entrepreneur where you feel like you need to tell them, you have to unlearn that because that doesn't work anymore, you know?
You know, yeah, I see that in myself sometimes because keeping up some days is hard. And
Mhm.
even though I own a tech company, that doesn't mean I'm going in and building things myself.
Yeah.
So, I'm having to unlearn how I've done things.
Mhm.
Marketing. I mean, Eric, from your perspective too, marketing has changed
Oh,
so much between my last business, my social media agency that I sold with the SaaS platforms to now. How I market is very different. I mean, if
yes,
I had known any of this that I do now,
yes.
I would have had a 10 times more successful business. So I see that in myself, some slowness to change on things, but it is especially harder for founders that have been doing this for 15, 20 years. And now they've done business the same way. And I do see this apprehension to change. They'll pay us to come in and do an AI leadership workshop with their team. It's a
Hmm.
half day workshop where we go in and we're talking about AI and we're taking them from something simple like prompting all the way down to agents automating in your business. But you can feel it in the room. Half of the people are like, whoa, this is going to be incredible. I can't wait to like automate as much as we can. And then the other people are like, but how would we do this? How would we let
Yeah.
go? How would I change what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And it is so hard. And you can start to see friction happening
Hmm.
with the team. Some are ready to keep moving and others have a harder time changing.
Wow. Alane, I'm telling you, there's so much in there. I think you and I, man, we could go all day with this, and I love it. I love what you're bringing to the table. I want to ask you one question, you and I talked about this in the beginning. You see, like we talked about in law, there's a lot of guys in law, and in tech, you see very few women nowadays.
Mm.
What is that like to be able to make your voice heard, nowadays? I mean, and tell me, I always feel that women can bring something special to any table. Tell me what, tell me what it's like for you.
You know, I wrote an article a few years ago called "Being a Female in Tech is My Superpower,"
Mm,
because you know I think everybody at some moment has some hard position to be in where somebody doesn't value what they're saying, whether whatever. If you're a white male, I've seen those instances. So I always looked at it as this is my differentiator. I don't look like everybody else in the room. And I mentioned it to somebody. I was at a conference, and I said something like, I don't always mention my business partner because I don't want them to be like, oh, that's why she's gotten where she's gotten. And he goes, but it would only take about 2 seconds in conversation with you to know
mm,
that you know what you're talking about. And I
yeah.
was like, thank you for that. And that really helped reaffirm my confidence and being like, you know what, I can stand alone or with somebody and it doesn't take away my value. But I found that being a female in a male dominated industry, people value what you have to say, no matter what, if you have something good to say. And people love to help people. So I've found that I've gotten ahead because, I'm the lonely woman here that needs help, and people will jump and help out. So I've gotten amazing mentors. I've gotten meetings where other people didn't. So I don't really like to look at that as a chip on my shoulder. And honestly, I've been in a male dominated industry for my entire life. I was in engineering in college. I was the only female in my classes.
Mhm.
Then went into a male dominated engineering world, which I think is very common in that field, and then went into tech. So, I could have a chip on my shoulder, but people can smell that
Yeah.
you have that. So
Yeah.
I try to just be me and know what I'm talking about. And also sometimes I say, you know what, I don't know. I need to find out. And I'm okay with that.
Alane, I'm really thankful we had this conversation today. I hope that, our listeners, Going Forward Nation can really get a lot out of this. And I want you to tell those folks exactly how do they find you? Give them the LinkedIn, the website. I want them to be able to find you because I know there's going to be someone out there who is going to need that help with the efficiency engineering, as we call it, for their business.
Eric, this has been so much fun. My website's biggestgoal.ai. Super easy, and we have free resources on there as well. And my LinkedIn, which I'm very active on, is Alane Boyd.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us your most valuable asset. That's your time.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Ho, H to the O-V. I used to move snowflakes by the OZ. I guess even back then you can call me CEO of the ROC. Ho, fresh out the frying pan into the fire. I be the music biz #1 supplier. Fly it in a piece of paper bearing my name. Got the hottest chick in the game wearing my chain, that's right.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate our podcast and share it with a friend. Every share, every comment, every rating propels us forward. For more content, insights, and updates, visit ericelliott.com. Remember, your journey, your story is what keeps us going forward. Until next time.